Good evening. My name is Carlos Ruiz, and we are the Preservation Commission. We have a quorum, and the chair will call the meeting to order in a moment. I just want to remind commissioners to press the button, the push button for the mics to turn on and off. So if you want to, for the recording. Thank you.
This is the Tuesday, May 8th, 2018 meeting of the Evanston Preservation Commission. The meeting is called to order. It is 7:04 and we have a quorum. First up is old business and the case at 629 Foster Avenue. And if you can sign in and introduce yourselves, please.
Thank you all for seeing us again. Again, I'm Mike Shively. I'm the architect for the project, and also with me tonight is Rachel Hillman, who's the assistant director of the facility. So taking to heart all the great feedback we got last time, we are presenting tonight a much more scaled back design, again focused on bringing more natural light into the building. Get my bearings here. Last time, it was requested that we provide some more context photos of the street. Again, this is a very eclectic street along Foster Avenue. We did, along the bottom, you can see the entire block that we sit in the center of. To the left, there's a historic home, and to the right, there is a large athletic facility, kind of a modernist style. Here we're showing a compare and contrast of the existing facade compared to the work that we are proposing. So starting at the right-hand side of the facade, one of the main moves we are making is to add transom windows to the first floor, again, for our priority of bringing natural light into those study spaces. We're using the height of a double roll lock that exists on the existing facade to establish the height for the new transoms. And it was also requested last time that we try to maintain some of the smaller scale limestone detailing that currently exists on the facade. So we're proposing raising that existing limestone header to above the new transom windows, which will sit on top of that soldier course. On the second floor, we're doing a similar move. We're using the soldier course and some sort of soffit material that happens right there to establish the height for some new transom windows. And then at the left side of the facade on the first floor, we are increasing the current rather low door head height of the solid doors that are there now to have much more glass at the main entry, both for light and security into the entry vestibule. Right above those doors, those vertical lines you see, and maybe you could see better here on the rendered elevation, would be limestone panels, very much in keeping with the limestone that is currently above the existing front doors. And then at the second floor, unlike last time where we were actually going to completely take the glass edge to edge on that existing gabled entry, we are simply working within the existing gabled facade to make those windows larger. So it doesn't look like that dramatic of a change in elevation relative to last time, but we're in fact keeping the fascia, the eaves, the soffit, all of those details exactly as they are now. We're simply making that window opening that's in the main second floor study space larger, less so than we were previously proposing. We also added some thicker mullions between the new proposed windows so that you can read the scale of them is more in keeping with the scale of the other windows on the facade. And also because we are simply replacing the windows in the location they are now rather than going for a different look for that portion of the facade, we're proposing sticking with the existing green window color of all the original windows. So you can see that a little bit more clearly on our rendered elevations. Again, everything about the eaves and the soffits is remaining. It's just the center part that we would be changing from the archtop windows to the pointed top. There was also a concern last time about the changes that we're making on the front facade not wrapping around within spaces. So to the left in the first floor lobby vestibule, we are also proposing adding those transom windows, and in the second floor study space, also adding the transom windows. Similarly, on the right side, where those changes on the front occur, we're wrapping around and adding the transom windows in the first gable there on the side facade as well. Finally, another component to the project, which is somewhat outside of this committee, I believe, but I think important to the goals we're trying to achieve, are new landscaping. And I was pleased in meeting with Scott Byron 2 weeks ago and seeing his design to know that he's very much feeling the same as us, that we're trying to preserve the residential scale of the street. So at the front entry, he's actually proposing a really lovely, which is over to the right, really lovely boxwood hedge, kind of creating more of a entry front yard, so to speak. And similarly, at the back, we are addressing some neighbors' concerns of people cutting through that existing back area by routing the circulation entirely out the back to the parking area and creating a more intimate kind of garden space back there. Rachel, would you have anything to add?
Just to reiterate that we're really excited about the opportunity to have more natural light in our lobby. It feels quite dark often, and I've found myself many days wondering if a light is out because it just feels so shaded inside, which is unfortunate, and also just that the priority here is for our students to feel like this is a warm and welcoming space for them to participate in and have as their home away from home.
Thank you, Rachel. And if I could ask you to sign in if you haven't already. Does that conclude your presentation? Okay, thanks. Any questions?
On the front elevation, I'm just curious, you've maintained that line of the transom, which seems to be carried through for windows on the second floor, first floor, and all the rest.
Yes.
Why didn't you just run the transom line across on the doors? Rather than these, very, very tall doors, which I assume they are.
They are. We could perhaps find a way to split the difference. The issue is that the current window heads on the first floor are 6'8", so the doors are actually quite squat for commercial entries, and that's also the reason that the lobby space is so dark now, because the window head's at 6'8". So it made sense for us to pop the transom line up, but maintain that 6'8" datum simply because it aligns with the brick pattern. But at the front door, we made a decision to just go all the way up to the high height rather than have 6'8" doors with a transom above.
Okay. On the two renderings that you had, if we go to those,
Yes.
on this drawing, before we go away, that limestone over the windows seems that it's about
Yep, I see that.
one
Yeah.
brick high, and then as we look at all the other renderings, it
It looks
seems to be
taller.
about the thickness of all the existing ones.
Yeah, I believe it should match the existing, which I believe is the height that's on the left, but we'll make sure of that and make sure that all of them
I was
match.
trying to understand,
Yep.
especially if you go back to your two renderings.
They show the taller.
Well, I wasn't clear when you've changed the windows as we first turned the corner. This is the east side we're looking at here, right?
Yes.
Are you also changing it on those windows going further north?
No, we're only doing it in the first bay on the sides. So that within the room, you would have the same transom height, but then beyond that, we would stick with the lower heads.
All right.
Other questions? Anyone? Are we ready to entertain a motion on this one? And the standards that apply are for alteration and demolition.
Okay. I'll move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for 629 Foster for the depicted redesign of the front facade and entry to create larger openings, keeping the new modifications within the same proportions, heights, and materials in accordance with applicable standards for alteration 1 through 5, 9, and 10, and that we approve demolition as necessary to accomplish this in accordance with the applicable standards for demolition 1 through 5.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it looks really, you did a really nice job.
I appreciate that, and thank you for the feedback, and I'm glad that we were able to accommodate.
Yep. Next, moving on to new business is 1228 Oak Street. And if you could sign in and introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And my name is Hong Chen from Excel Home Exteriors. And today I'm proposing the tear off and replace from 1228 Oak Avenue from aluminum siding to vinyl siding. So first of all, let me walk you through the existing setting and the house condition. So this is the front of the house. As you can see, we got different kind of, unleveling fascia and peeling up the sidings too. The front siding next to the door was also falling apart, which is the one I circled. And here's a close look of the front siding. And behind the aluminum siding, you can see there foam insulation behind it. And the wood on the first picture shows the wood underneath the siding is all rotted. And the photo at the bottom shows, if you take a, I'm not sure this is clear enough, but you can see at the right corner on the second photo, you can see a white color instead of green, because the entire house, most of part is green siding, but in the back, I'll show you there are different type of siding and colors, which is, not looking good. So here's a close look of the rear. You can see the first photo. The upper is vinyl siding. It's in white, and so let me clarify this. All the green color siding is aluminum, and everything else, this part is on the first photo is vinyl siding, and then in the back it's all very messy and bad looking. In the middle of the second level, on the second photo, you can see right here, that's 8-inch aluminum siding. It's weird. You got 3-inch vinyl siding, 8-inch aluminum siding in white, and if it's different colors, because aluminum siding fades so fast, faster than vinyl siding. And you got stuccos too. And here's the rear left elevation, I think, right? Okay. So see stuccos, and here and this aluminum, vinyl, aluminum in all kind of color and styles. And at the bottom is the left front elevation, and the downspout is damaged too, that we will take care of. So this is the existing condition of the 1228 property, and following the dimensions of this house. So we have the 3D from each level. You can see the dimensions of it. If you got questions, feel free to ask me anytime. And this is the back. And now this is the proposed solution of this property. So replacing it with premium vinyl siding from Mastic, which is one of the best in line of vinyl siding in desert sand color. And this is how it's going to look on the front with the new installation. So we'll have all those fascia corrected, and all this window will rewrapped. Excuse me. So now, forgive me about that part. Where just, this shows the correct color. So we use one color for the entire house. So before we'll what we'll do is tear off all the aluminum siding and white siding, everything existing, and then we'll put foam board insulation and moisture barrier before we put on the vinyl siding. And thickness of the siding we're going to put is 0.06. This is how it's going to look from rear elevation. So keep the stucco, we'll power wash it and repaint it. Quoted by the owner, this is most ugly house in the neighborhood, so he wants to get it fixed. Yeah. So you can see the difference in comparison of before, how it looks, and after, how we're going to make it look. That's the application.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hi, I just
Hi.
have a question. So,
Sure.
on the, are those two? So I understand the stucco is a different color, but then I just was confused. There, are you
The existing
changing?
color?
Yeah, no. Like, can you go to the next slide, or the next? Yeah. Okay. So the top. So is that you're changing the siding?
No, the top
No.
in the white part,
Yeah.
right? Those are stucco. We'll just do power wash and repaint it, refresh it.
So everything else that's a different color is the stucco,
Right.
even on the lower part of that bay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which is existing, which is stucco.
Thank
yes.
you.
Did you happen to bring a sample of the siding? with
Yes, I
you?
do have it.
Okay. You could just, thank you.
So this is the style of traditional. The good thing about this vinyl siding is if we take a look at the existing siding, let me get this back. The surface is almost plain, but with the new siding, it has wood grain on it, so it feels very nature. And another benefit of this vinyl siding is maintenance free. And yeah, you won't worry about any cosmetic damage and also the color fading like the aluminum siding.
Any follow-up questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
What is the trim around the windows? The trim around the windows is going to be J channels. I have it too. So as you requested, I really just cut it for me. It shows, let's say this is a cornered window. And if we put it on top, it goes like this, and we put the siding in the J channel, this channel. So you got water runs through the channel. It's not going to get into under behind siding. And above the windows, we're going to put flashings under the J channels. So it's going to be no water issue. And that will be the same color as the siding.
Are you saying you're going to remove the trim, the wood trim that is there?
No, we're not removing any wood trims, anything in wood.
So are you going to rub that with vinyl?
That is, no, that is, there's, so you mean the window trim? That,
The window trim.
right now the window trim is aluminum trim. So we're going to re-wrap it with the same material and same tab. You're going to have the same look too, but fresh looking.
Are you wrapping the windows in aluminum or wrapping them in vinyl? I didn't understand.
Oh, we're wrapping the window first. So let me explain this again. Let me try to find a window picture. Oh, maybe. So we tear off, right now the existing, let's say this is the window frame. And the window frame, we all know it's wood. And right now the window frame is wrapped with aluminum trim coil.
And the J channel we use is to put around the window trim. Did I explain it? Any other questions?
Are we ready to entertain a motion on this one? And the standards, the applicable standards are for alteration?
I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 1228 Oak Street for the replacement of damaged green and white aluminum and vinyl siding with the proposed vinyl and wrapped windows.
Right.
As described, in that the applicable standards are met for alteration 1 through 10.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there a second? Robert? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Would be me, Carlos?
That would be you?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is 413 Grove Street. And if you could sign in and introduce yourself, please.
All right. My name is Jeff Clements. I'm the owner of 413, along with my dear wife, 413 Grove, and we're proposing to put a 6-foot addition on the rear of the house to enlarge our kitchen and let in some additional natural light. Carlos, I don't know if there are slides. I didn't
There
prepare
are these lights. You see the
Okay.
control left and right that goes.
All right.
There you go. So I put them in order with the site plan first, and then the the plot survey, the site plan, the front elevation. So there's a sequence to it. So
Okay.
as you move on.
All right. So this house, there's another slide that gives a little more context. It's in your packet that shows where this house sits on Grove Street. It's, as you can see, there's a public alley. It runs right along the side of the house. And on the other side of the alley is our condominiums, a large co-op, and on down, the entire block essentially is, on the opposite side is apartment buildings and so the
Mr. Clemens, a pointer there too at the top,
Pardon?
so you can point on the screen.
sorry.
There is a pointer that you can use.
Okay.
Is the star on the circle
Oh,
there?
the star. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the addition would come out about 6 feet to the rear of the house, and it would essentially replace a number of different a rear entrance, a storm cellar, entrance to the basement, and an existing pantry shed that was added at a later date. So here's the context. You can see the house here along the alley. It's kind of in the shadow of the large buildings that run along that other side of the alley. It's kind of very similar to the house next door, which has also had a rear addition of a similar type. In their case, I think they did a 2-story addition that extends about the same distance into their backyard as ours would. So this shows the proposed, Yeah, well, let me just show the rear of the house first, and we'll come back to any questions you might have on the specifics on the plan. These are different angles, if you will, on what's going on the rear of the house now. You can see there was a kind of a rear entrance that was bumped out at a later date, a small deck and stairs, the pantry to the left. It was added. You can see in the aluminum siding the channel above that shed where a chimney used to be. So the proposal essentially is to, you can see the elevation on the right side here, is to keep the same style and size of the two existing kitchen windows, but move them out, add two additional ones in that section, and then two in what is now kind of the pantry area, and also to add skylights to bring in some additional light. This is all facing north. So this is the proposed look of the house with the three-dimensional drawing. You can see we've moved the entrance to the right side. That's will align directly with the entrance to our garage and allow us to open up the backyard for additional garden space. You can see the old antique windows, essentially replacing them with a Marvin wood window to match. And then this kind of tells the story in terms of the motivation for this. We have, you can see the line, the exterior line currently in the kitchen. The pantry extends a little bit beyond that. And by adding this 6 feet, we'll be able to have room for eat-in area in the kitchen and a little informal family dining and pantry area as well. You can see the kitchen itself. We've done some renovations already in the house, and we've put in the beginning of a kitchen here with counters essentially running along the south wall in a refrigerator-freezer combination, and then a kind of a narrow center island. And it's a very small space for a modern kitchen. Basement window on the east side will provide the alternative exit when we eliminate the storm entrance. These are the proposed skylights. That's basically the story.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm looking at the rendering, and I have to say that the elevations, they're not. I mean, I have to say that there should be more detail in those elevations. Just
this
drawn.
one. This one.
Well, that's really not showing. Just the elevations that are drawn, just in terms of the detailing on the house. So there's a column that you have at the back of the addition that's just this little post, but then the existing house, the front of the house, you can sort of look at the detailing of it. So I'm a little concerned that that you're just not being consistent with the detailing, and it's hard to tell from these drawings. In terms of the fascia, that column, which kind of looks like a stick, and then what you really have on the house at the front, which is quite nice. So I don't know if you've thought about that, in terms of the detailing of the house and how you're matching it.
Well, our intent is to match it precisely. I mean, the house is a bit of a hodgepodge.
Right.
It's got several different types of windows. The rear of the house has the original antique divided windows, and the other side, the alley side, and the east side have replacement windows, 50s wood replacement windows that are there with mismatched storm windows that cut in different ways. So it's not, I would say, the look and feel of the house. The front is the best the best view of the house, I guess. And as you say, there's a fair amount of nice shingling detail, up above and so forth. We didn't see an opportunity to, or a need really, to replicate that on the rear of the house.
Julie, are you talking more specifically about, for example, the pillars?
The railing and the column.
Yeah.
The railing and the column.
The front of the house?
Yeah, and
just how it's drawn on the rear elevation or your rendering. It just doesn't, you go to your rendering. Okay, so see over to the right, that's a little post there, and there's a railing that slams, so I'm just talking about some of the detailing, which you could, which it's hard for us to tell when we're looking at this exactly what that is, except maybe a 6x6 post. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the intent or it's just the drawing.
It's just a drawing. The architect that did the original layout was not able to do a 3D rendering, so we went to another architect for that. We went back and forth with several different variations before we kind of arrived at this, and I agree that the the detailing on that porch area could be better, and we would certainly consider putting a column there that would be more like what we have on the front.
other questions?
Are the windows at the rear going to have muttons? On those elevations, I see a lot of muttons on all the other windows. If we can go to the other elevations. Not in the photos, but I'm talking about on the drawings. If we can go to those drawings. I see them on the front, and I see them on the east, but there's none on the north.
Right. Yeah, this is the original style of window that was in the house. These are original windows, and so we've just basically replicated what's there. And I don't have a picture of it here, but the alley side of the house has a mix of styles as well. The second-story windows are all, original, and some of the ones along the living room side facing the alley are like you saw on the east side.
Replacing windows?
Pardon me?
I thought there were windows being replaced in addition to new windows. Am I mistaken?
Currently there are two windows in the kitchen that match the one that's upstairs in the rear of the house. We don't have any intention at this point of updating any of the other windows, and this window doesn't have the same style. These are original or older windows as well. The ones in the dining room here are a little bit newer. The one in the hallways are newer, but they're the intent is to replace these windows with the updated Marvin windows that match the dimensions, style, and look and feel of those existing windows.
Okay. Other questions? So in terms of crafting a motion, Julie, do you want, would you like to include, I'm just asking you if you would like to include some language in a motion about the back porch area?
Well, I would like to say that I think these drawings are not complete enough to actually, for me to personally render an opinion, because it's fine to say, well, we want it to look like this, but it doesn't look like that in the drawings, and so I'm not sure that I'm the right person to craft the motion.
No, well,
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
like, are you comfortable with that? And do others is this something that we want to ask them to come back? How do we want to proceed?
All right. Well, I would like you to come back with documents that are actually show exactly your intent with the drawing, because that's all we have to base our, base a certificate of appropriateness. So if it's not drawn and you just say, well, you're matching it, then, basically that's not enough, in my opinion.
Other thoughts?
I'm just curious with the change of architects, if the issue is that, is the original architect who did the original plans going to complete the job? I mean, were you coming here before this was complete because you wanted to see if it got approved, or?
Yeah, I guess the thought is that if the commission is generally agreeable with our intent, that we can move forward with getting finalized drawings and finalized construction plans and so forth put together. But we just we're kind of caught in transition between architects at this point, and that's why there's a bit of a mismatch in terms of.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was
Mark.
just going to say, I mean, people just have to disagree with this, but my inclination would be that the basics of the project are fine, and we'll end up approving it. It's just
I would
to go to
agree.
the next step of doing a good job, having an
Yeah.
architect who's going to
Lay it all
complete the
out.
job and do a good job
Yeah,
with
I
it.
think
would
I think
help.
our perspective is we'd like to know what we're approving, and it's not that what you've proposed is out of line or anybody has any particular objections to the overall design. We just, I think, don't quite understand what it is we'd be approving. And so if you're willing, you can work with Carlos and come back next month once you have the drawings a little bit more fleshed out and the architect transition, as Mark mentioned, has been completed a little bit more, and we'll take a look at it.
Okay,
So-
sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
We need a motion to continue this case until, what is our next meeting date? June 12th. Go ahead, Mark.
I move that we continue the hearing with respect to 413 Grove to June 12th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we'll see you next month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Oh. This one? Okay. Next is 2735 Sheridan Road. And if you could sign in and introduce yourself, please.
Good evening. My name is Eric Mullendor, and I'm representing Chuck Lewis and Penny Sebring. I'm their architect. And tonight we're going to present an addition to 2735 Sheridan. Chuck and Penny have lived in Evanston for almost 50 years, and they've been in this house since about 2005. And they'd like to stay in their house. They're both 75, and for years they've talked about putting an elevator in this house. And so finally they've decided that they'd like to do this. They'd like to stay in their house as long as possible. And I'd like to walk you through the addition. So the house is at the corner of Sheridan and Isabella. There's a large coach house in the front of the house, and the main house you see is the large shaded house behind it. The addition is proposed at the north side of the house. So there's existing and proposed. We originally looked for a spot to put the elevator inside the house, and we decided it wasn't necessary to have it go to the basement or the third floor, but the key became getting an elevator to go from grade to first floor and then from first floor to second floor. So that led us to put it on the north side of the house, which is a beeline from the garage to the house, and there's currently a back door to the house there now, and so it just made sense to locate it there. Here's the view from Sheridan Road. The view from Isabella, there's a little cul-de-sac there before it ducks off into Lakeside Place. The coach house is on the right. The end of the house, the north side of the house, is on the left. So the addition would be built on this side of the house behind the fence that separates sort of the public part of the property from the private part of the property. There's turning around to face the lake side of the house. Front elevation top as it is now, and then bottom would be the elevation as proposed for the elevator. So it's really a mudroom addition that conceals the elevator. We found we didn't really want to just attach an elevator shaft to the house. We wanted to turn it into a gracious entrance to the house, an everyday entrance to the house that the owner would use every day. Here's the north elevation showing a little entrance pavilion that becomes the side thing. And we found in the basement, we've had this for years, this was an old door. The leaded glass was saved. So this is going to be the genesis for the new door to the house. And you'll see it there. It's a really large, wide door. And we think it was once on the Lake Terrace side. We don't know for sure, but we have an old photograph that suggests it might be from that location. Here's the lake side of the house with the addition now on the right. There's a little notch in the addition, and that's where we wanted to keep the exterior stairs to the basement, mostly as an exit from the basement, but also it's a used staircase to get into the basement from the outside. And the south side is not impacted by this addition. You actually don't see the addition from the south side. Here's the front of the house as it is today. Here's the addition. We set the addition substantially behind the front facade of the house because we wanted to make it deferential to the house, but in terms of balancing it with the south wing, in terms of the pair of double hung windows and the single window on the first floor, we also wanted to stay away from this super large oak tree, and we've designed a foundation to accommodate that large tree as well. Here's the elevation from Isabella, so you can see the new side entrance. There is a canopy on the north side of the house now. We're going to reuse those elements in the new addition. They're non-original, but we're still going to use them because they reference the canopy at the front of the house. The arched window over the side door references the bay window that you see above the front door, and there's also a bay on the lake side as well. So entrances are punctuated by bays, and while we didn't want to create a bay, we did the arch window to kind of be reminiscent of that shape. And here's the view from the driveway where you can see the addition tucking behind the house. Basement plan as existing. There's the addition with a foundation designed to allow the tree roots to stay intact and the basement entrance. First floor existing. First floor proposed. And you enter here from the north to a lower mudroom. You walk up a half a flight, and then you enter the elevator here and exit perpendicular to it, and you have a mudroom here, and then it discharges into what's now the mudroom. It'll become a butler's pantry, actually, which is adjacent to the kitchen. On the second floor, there's a large meeting room that the family uses for their family foundation, so that's existing and proposed, so it allows them to bring guests into the house through this way, and it was really just the best location to put the addition compared to trying to sort of put it on the south or on the back. It just seemed to fit naturally at that location. Here's the third floor. We decided it wasn't necessary for the elevator to go to the third floor, so you see the roof of the addition, and it has a low-pitched tiled roof because the elevator needs a little overhead height for the equipment. Roof plan, proposed roof. The window languages we took from the existing house. The double-hung windows, both second floor and first floor. The casement window on either side of the lake terrace thing became the inspiration for how we did the side door. There's the existing front door with side lights, and instead of doing it like this, we did it with individual punctured windows, but repeated the side lights. The owner wanted to make his everyday entrance as gracious as the front door. There's your windows. And we'll actually use one of these windows as a template for making a new one. That's the piece that you see over here. This is our existing front door and side light assembly. There's a historic photo of the house showing before the two additions were built at some point before our client got the house. You can see the window, excuse me, the screen door right here. We think that's where this door came from originally. There's a drawing of the side lights as punctured windows and the new door to contain this leaded glass assembly. The casement window, and we're going to do a casement assembly there over the side door. And then a standard double hung window proposed. First floor window, we took inspiration from the living room window in terms of the size and the height of the window. I think that's it.
Thank you. Questions?
Is it just an illusion? The pitch of the roof of the elevator just didn't look as if it's the same pitch, is it?
That's correct. We wanted to keep it low. It's the minimum pitch for a tiled roof. We needed just a little bit of height above the second floor for the elevator equipment, so we kept it as low as we could to make it a tiled roof. It could go a little lower if it were a roof of different material, but for tile, it needed to be a 4 and 12. And we also didn't want to go too high. We didn't want to pronounce it as a sort of, we thought it was okay staying low.
What is the other roof? All the other roofs? They
Gosh,
look
the
like
other
they're
roof,
not much more.
I couldn't tell you, but it's probably a 6 or 7 and 12.
Really? Wow, didn't seem that extreme.
Other questions? Are we ready to entertain a motion on this one?
I just had one
Tim?
question on the
Sure.
on the lake facade, the lake side.
Yeah.
The window choice.
Yeah, let me just go to that drawing.
Yeah. So the addition's on the right. Is that correct? Yeah.
That's correct.
I was just curious as to, is that a bay that's to the left of that?
So that's where right behind there is where the elevator is. And then this is a little notch, which I can show you in plan, that allows the basement stair to exist, and it preserves as many windows on the north side as possible.
Okay. And is this a bay here? Bay window?
No, that's a series of 3 double-hung windows. It's not a bay.
Okay. This just looked a lot of place to me, personally. I mean, given the rest of this language kind of throughout the home, but, it's a small detail. And again, it's maybe out of the purview, being it's lakeside, but just an observation.
Any final questions, observations? Are we ready to entertain a motion on this one? And the standards that apply are for construction and for demolition.
I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 2735 Sheridan Road for the construction of a 2-story addition to the north side of the house for the residential elevator. In that the applicable standards for construction 1 through 5, 7, 8, 10, and 11 through 15 are met, and standards for demolition 1 through 5 are also met.
Great. Second, Mark. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from March 13th and from April 10th. I had sent some corrections to Carlos earlier today, most specifically to the March 13th minutes. I don't know if anyone else had any additional corrections that they wanted to provide Carlos or provide now.
I did send the corrections to the
Okay.
commissioners.
Okay. Did all of you have a chance to take a look at them? Yeah.
I just want to add that the item under the March 13 of 115 Dempster, I added 2 paragraphs. For some reason, my version was not saved. That was kind of missing, so I added those back.
Okay.
For your attention, just a more complete. That's the
Okay.
question you had. Shouldn't be
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
That one. That
Okay.
part.
All right. Do we want a motion to approve both sets of minutes as corrected?
I move that we approve the minutes as corrected
For,
for both March 13th, 2018, and April 10th, 2018.
is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Robert? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just wasn't here for one of the meetings.
Okay, so you want to abstain?
Abstain from the last month's meeting.
Okay.
And then
Well, since the motion covers both, you'll
Right.
just need to abstain.
abstain.
I abstain as well. I was absent from the last
Okay.
meeting,
Okay. 2 abstentions.
but they look nice.
Would you like me to redo the motion as 2 separate?
No,
ones?
we'll just go with the 2 abstentions, so. All right, next up is the committee reports, and the first is the preservation ordinance review, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the rules and procedures update. Just, I think most of you know the updated ordinance went before the Planning and Development Committee of the Council. Gosh, it seems like a long time ago. Was it the 30th? Was that the date?
It was
Or
the meeting previous to that, so it was the second meeting in
23rd?
April. Yes.
Okay, so that went before the council on the 23rd and was introduced at the council. It will be for action on the May 14th council agenda. So just as an update with that. Also, Carlos circulated the rules and procedures with the corrections that the subcommittee had made earlier this year. One of the things that came up that was also in the packet that I thought was important, and let me get to my notes here, was including information from this document, and I think we need to give it some context, but from this document that dates from 2002, which describes commission review for city projects. So, and in packet 2, it's on page 16. As I mentioned, I think there needs to be some sort of introduction to this with some sort of clarity in terms of the history. And Carlos, I think you can probably provide some insight into that. And then I also think that we need a little bit of clarity when we're talking about projects that are received or are federally or state funded. And my thought on this one as well was that we can have a separate article either taking the position now at where Article 4 is or where Article 8 is, and I have no problems with that, or no issues with that. Those seemed like reasonable places to insert it.
I'm sorry, is this part of the ordinance, or this is?
No, this is a separate document that was done back in 2002.
Does it have legal effect, or is it just?
Basically, since this is all advisory review, it's one of those things at this point, Mark, when this document came up, part of it was I had asked Carlos for some information about, you know, when we were to give advisory review. So under the circumstances, I think this is inserting it, since it doesn't come up very often, into the rules and procedures, made the most sense at this point.
I had a question about number 4 in the first group and I guess number 5 in the second group.
Okay.
And what put one into one category and the other into
Sure.
the other. Meaning somehow exterior alterations of city-owned buildings are exempt if it's a restoration or a rehab, but not if it's an alteration or an addition?
That's correct. Maybe I can give a little bit
Yeah.
background.
Why don't you do
Yeah, I'd
that?
like some background
Yeah.
on that.
The list, I mean, the list just looks like it could use work like traffic signals we would approve. I mean, I just don't know. That
We
even-
have had those come before us in the past to
Yeah,
provide.
Should we?
You know, we can talk about that. You know, I think the thing is this was something that was agreed to most specifically with Public Works, because this is when these issues come up. And my feeling was that, and one of the reasons I asked Carlos to insert it in the packet is I think that this needs to be codified somewhere. So,
But I'm just wondering if this is 20 years old and maybe wasn't even carefully reviewed, I'm just wondering if we should.
Should we-
do a
that's
quick-
a-
I mean,
that's-
again, it's not a big time expenditure, but
Yeah.
it just seems. I mean, I think the issue Elliot's raising is the most important one, because it was like, wait a minute, I thought that's. I mean, the main thing we should approve is substantial changes to the appearance of
to the
buildings.
buildings, right.
The rest of it seems like you could probably get rid of 90% of it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think what we need to probably do is, first of all, get a little more history on it. I'd like a little more myself. And the other thing is if this is something that Public Works is using as guidance, I mean, we can always add these to the rules and procedures too later. We can talk about that a little bit more. That's a separate issue. But I'd like to find out how they're using it too, frankly.
Yeah, it just seems as long as we're going to do something, we might as well just take a few minutes and get
To
it.
do it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious because when I'm looking at that list the second time, it's not clear that that first group are in fact either landmarks or in historic districts.
Right.
So then you could say, well, I guess who cares about the restoration or rehab? We wouldn't have seen it.
Well, I think that when we're talking about projects, I think what they're looking at is whether or not it could be interpreted as an undertaking under Section 106 or 707. I think that's where it comes in. Because if it's a federally funded project that has a potential impact on a landmark or on something that's National Register or National Register eligible, there are some issues associated with that. And Carlos, you may be able to shed some light on this.
Sure. So, in part, it is true that some of these projects could receive federal or state funding or permits, and the City of Evanston, being a certified local government, can review those projects instead of the state.
Not on all aspects, I don't think.
I'm not so sure to what extent we can review it, but
And maybe that's an IHP
Yeah.
or, a Historic Preservation Division question, too.
But my recollection about the genesis of this was that the Public Works Department was always questioning whether or not the commission should be reviewing their projects because they were city projects. And in conversations with their staff, we as a commission agreed to get some type of guidance, not only for them, but also for the commission to be able to review projects as an advisor, in this case, a comment. So they developed this list, which will allow them to move forward in certain types of projects that might affect a historic district, like the street lights or water, sewer projects where they're excavating and things like that, that do not necessarily have an impact if they put back the concrete or the asphalt on the road. But then you have other projects that might have an impact, like, for instance, when Sheridan Road in front of the university was widened for new bikes, trails, and things like that. The commission has provided to the staff their recommendation whether or not has an impact or no impact on the historic district. And also that helps staff to, move forward with bids and things like that. They need to prepare for the city council, and they have very strict time limits to do those type of projects. So this is just a list that the commission and the Public Works Department at the time agreed to adhere when a project of one of this kind will emerge, and so we would know what will be in front of the commission and what would not be.
So I still don't understand why number 4 is under city, is exempt from our review when I don't understand why.
Because if I recall correctly, the Public Works Department made the case that they're not going to alter the building, they will just repair or restore it. And in some instances, when you are repairing, you don't need a permit either.
Right? Well, the language is a little misleading.
I would agree with you on
so that restoration is
the way that this is
scope.
Yeah, this way that this is described, it's a much larger scope than simple repairs. Yeah.
I think the difficulty is that the second group, specifically in Prenz there, right below the title, talks about affecting landmarks or districts or eligible to be designated. But that means that in the first one, if you're restoring or rehabbing a building, regardless, it seems as if regardless of whether it's in a district or not, because it's not included a second time if it's in the district. So it just simply says, I could have a city building, it just happens to not be in the district, therefore we don't have to come to the commission.
That's the intent.
And that's just bizarre, especially because that fine line between what is rehab versus alteration and so on and so forth. Yeah. I mean, ironically, and I'm not going to go back and look at the year 02, but I recall doing projects that were city, and we did come before the commission. And
now these are reviewed by Carlos, correct? They
Right.
come to you.
Right.
right,
Yeah.
but that's the point. They're not coming before the commission. And I mean, it's a restoration. We're asking everybody else to come here for restoration and rehab, aren't we?
Not necessarily, because if they don't need a permit, like if somebody wants to restore windows, they don't need a permit, so we cannot review it.
Well, we don't know what the scope is here of
Well,
restoration
I
and rehab.
think that's the fundamental question, since this document was developed to work with Public Works specifically, and all of these certainly are legitimate Public Works functions. I think the issue is I think we maybe need to find out how they're using this document, and if we can sit down and maybe this, since Mark or somebody pointed out it is almost 20 years old at this point, does this really make sense from sort of an interdepartmental function standpoint? So
So I do have a question, though. If it was specified that the whatever city buildings were not part of historic districts or landmark structures, then it wouldn't come before us as a commission anyway, correct?
As it stands, yes.
I mean,
But the only thing that I'm thinking now is that you have a building that is not in the historic district, but might be of significance. And if they want to do something, we'll not be able to review it. But the ordinance itself, it only addresses landmarks and historic
Right,
district property.
right.
So in fact, we shouldn't review it.
well, I think that's correct, but then it should probably say that in the language.
Yeah, and that
mean-
gets to, I think we
Right.
need to understand what the application
Okay,
is and to
okay.
clarify this, frankly.
So what do you think we should do? Who should clarify it? The city?
I think that we're going to have to have some sort of conversation with Public Works about this. Scott, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, if the commission's direction, we'd certainly be happy to sit down with Public Works staff as well as with the law department and talk about this list and a little bit of background for it, and then, as the chair mentioned, kind of what the appropriate way to memorialize or institutionalize
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is, whether it's within the rules and procedures.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that, or not really? No. Okay.
I don't think so at this point.
Just consider it direction. In terms of the rules and procedures and the update, did anybody else have any questions regarding the other document or any further thoughts? Because it's been a little bit of time since we looked at it. Nope.
Am I correct that the clean copy that preceded the other two has got all of the changes of both other ones? Okay.
So just to make sure, I included in the packet the version that everybody had a chance to comment. Then I included the version that has all the comments in red line, and then the clean version of that.
Yeah, and
Have these already, is this the version that also went through the law department? Wasn't there something?
I believe that they looked at it, didn't they?
I thought they were going to look at it after we made our comments. Wasn't that how it worked, Carlos?
To be honest, I don't recall the direction.
Right. Well, since we have to, I think that that's a good point. I thought that had been done, Elliot, and we'll have them take a look at it, and then what we'll plan to do, since the ordinance is on the agenda, the council agenda on the 14th, we'll take a look at this next month, and I'm hoping that we can have some clarification on the other issues at that point, and then we can vote to adopt it. I think from Julie and Elliot and Jack's work on the other design issues for the website, in my mind, there's no reason why you can't use this grid, since I think we all agree that that's fine.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I know that I just spoke with Carlos earlier, and I know that they're working on it, and I think we're just waiting to see something so we can then respond.
Okay.
So I think, unless Carlos tells me otherwise, they should have all the information we gave them, and with the insertion of the new grid document.
Oh, terrific.
Okay.
That sounds great. So what we'll do then, just to summarize, is we'll get some direction on the Public Works document. We'll look at that next time, determine where that may fit within the context of the rules and procedures, and then we'll plan to vote on this the next time, and at our next meeting in June. And if anybody has any final thoughts, please send them to Carlos. With that, Julie, did you have anything else you wanted to add on the design? Good. Yeah.
No, I just think, and I know it has been difficult to find the time, I'll just, to sort of do this. So I guess I would add, just like Carlos, just any realistically, so that I don't I don't want to be bugging you, but when do you think, I understand things are pretty tight at the city right now, but like when do you think we might be able to see something, just so we have some game plan?
Last time you were here, you had mentioned that you had sent something to Diane.
I think you have everything.
No, let me go back.
I'm sorry.
I received that email, but I didn't have a chance to review it, so
Okay.
I need to do that.
Okay.
And I'll talk to our staff to see if there's anything else we can do to change what we already done, because I'm not sure exactly the content of that email. Do you have any agreed, or did you change anything?
We had, it was the insertion of, I think, the cleaned up and corrected language, plus the new chart, really, that
Okay.
Right.
is. So, yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to that email.
Changed, yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't really change anything, so.
Okay. So I think that now I'm more, available to be able to concentrate on that. So for our next meeting, we will have.
Right, and I'm
the version.
available. If you want to say, like, take a look at this,
Okay.
I think we can all weigh in on it before.
Okay.
or something.
No, I appreciate that. I think it'll be very helpful. Thank you.
That would be great, Julie, if you could do that. So, Carlos, any other final comments on the design or rules and procedures? If not, Carlos, you want to talk a little bit about the 2018 Preservation Awards and the reception?
Sure. So we, I believe, have a good event on the 26th of April. We had 9 projects that were recognized with an award, and we also had a message from the mayor to the award recipients, and then we show the video of all the projects. And we started at 6:30, and we were done before 7:15. So I think that was very appreciated by everyone who was present, that it was not a very long event. So now we're working on the video that will be submitted for showing at the council meeting, that we will add the before photos and the after to show the contrast between what was in the past and what's now the project. So I thank you everyone for bringing food and something for the our guests to enjoy. So I do appreciate that, and I also want to thank Anderson Castillo. He did a lot of work for us in terms of the video and the preparations for all the audio and visuals for the event.
Yeah, and the judges too, Stuart
Correct.
Cohen and Pam Owens, and
Talmucker.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the judge is correct, so they were very helpful.
Yeah.
And I wanted just to, I thought it was really successful, and then I know that we had the problem last year and with trying to overlap and people waiting, so I thought you guys did a great, commend you. It was really
They
good.
did a nice
It was great.
Thank you.
Any other issues that anyone wants to bring up? If not, can we have a motion to adjourn? It is 8:16.
Is this a new record?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second, Mark. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.